Welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free, formerly Wannabe Minimalist, the podcast for busy families who are tired of the chaos, fed up with being overwhelmed, and ready to enjoy life again. Each week, we talk about how to let go of the clutter so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. And it's not just physical clutter. We talk about the mental and emotional stuff too, because if it's holding you back, it's time to ditch it. I share what I've done in my own life to declutter, organize, and calm the chaos, but you won't just hear it from me. There are amazing guests too. It's practical, doable, and simple for those of us that want to be clutter-free. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. My name is Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 210 of the Wannabe Clutter Free podcast. On today's episode, I am chatting with Nikki Oden about overcoming burnout and maybe even stopping burnout before we get there. So many of us busy moms feel overwhelmed. We are burning the candle at both ends of the stick, as they say, and there is just so much going on that burnout kind of feels like it's part of life, but it doesn't have to be. And so Nikki is going to walk us through how we can understand what burnout feels like, the symptoms and signs that we can look for so that we can make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Because again, taking care of ourselves means that we can take better care of the people around us. It is not selfish, it is self-care. And then she's going to walk us through 5 steps that we can start to take today to really overcome burnout and make sure that we are really enjoying this journey that we are on in life, because this is what it's all about. So before we get there though, I want to take a moment to say thank you so much for joining me today. I couldn't do this show without you. And so I hope you can learn from this show and you can implement some of the things and they can make your everyday life a little bit better. And so if you like this show and you enjoy what you're hearing, there's a few ways that you can actually help the show out. One, you can share it with a friend. That is going to help get you an accountability partner. It's going to help you with somebody to be on this journey with you. If you know a mom that is suffering right now, that's going through burnout, let her know that she's not alone. And this episode could really help her. And you could really change her life just by sharing a podcast episode with her. So make sure you're doing that if you have a friend that could really just use a little pick-me-up. You can also leave a rating or a review for this show. That would really help us out. It also just makes my day to know that this show is helping you. And finally, if you want, you can follow along on Instagram. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free, and I've been sharing lots of tips and tricks, lots of 1-minute clutter-free hacks over there, and just different little things that can help you. All right, I will leave links to all of that in the show notes, or you can go to wannabeclutterfree.com/210 for more information. Again, that's wannabeclutterfree /210 for the links and show notes and a little bit more in-depth information over there. But that's enough housekeeping. Let's learn about my guest this week. Nikki Oden is a lawyer and mom mentor who helps working moms battle burnout by teaching them how to own their days and crush their goals without the mom guilt. After walking away from a lucrative career as a commercial litigator for a prestigious international law firm to become a stay-at-home mom, Nikki learned firsthand how easily a woman can completely lose herself in motherhood. Realizing that she needed something that was outside of just being mommy and wife, Nikki started a home-based business and quickly experienced what it means to live in survival mode. Eventually, though, through a lot of trial and improvement, she figured out how to harmonize what she wants as an ambitious woman with who she wants to be as a mother, and is passionate about teaching other working moms how to do the same. Her mission is to help those moms love their mom lives and themselves a little bit more. Nikki is the founder of Your Ideal Mom Life, host of the Love Your Mom Life podcast, and author of But Definitely Wear Mascara, hacks to help you love your mom life and yourself a little bit more. Her work has been featured on Good Day, DC, NBC6, The Boston Globe, Today Parents, Cafe Mom, Kids Spot, Clean Plates, Authority Magazine, and more. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into our conversation with Nikki. Well, hey, Nikki, welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
We're talk about the top 5 hacks to help busy moms battle burnout. But before we get there, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you help busy moms?
Yeah, I help busy moms because I know what it's like to not love your mom life. I remember completely living in survival mode and going through a lot of tumultuous. And I realized eventually that there was something that had to change about the way I was managing everything that was happening in my life. So before I became a mom, I was a lawyer practicing commercial litigation for a very large international law firm. And that is just a fancy way of saying that I represented big companies and went to court and argued about money all day long. And it was a great gig in the sense that I was compensated really well and I had a great sense of autonomy and independence. I kind of felt a little powerful going into court in my pencil skirts and heels and talking to judges, but it was a grind. And when I became pregnant with my first child, I looked at my husband and I said, this is not my forever job. Like, I don't see this arching over the horizon for me. And he was like, okay, so quit and I'll take care of us. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that was an option. So I took my maternity leave. I came back and I said, peace out, Big Law. I am going to go be a stay-at-home mom. And I was just really excited about it. I was like, I'm a really good lawyer. I'm smart. How hard can it be? Which were famous last words. It was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done. And when I started to kind of feel like I was getting the hang of it when my daughter was 9 months old, I found out I was pregnant with my son. So I very quickly went from this like high-powered lawyer who knew what she wanted to a mom of two under two who didn't know what day it was. I didn't know what the last time I had showered was. And I completely lost myself in motherhood. And after about 2 years, I realized I needed something that was mine outside of being mommy and wife. And so I went back to my husband to tell him like, hey, sorry, I hope you don't think I'm selfish and ungrateful, but I would like to start doing something else. And he was so supportive. So I started a home-based business. And that's when I really started to struggle. When I had the competing goals of wanting to go after goals and dreams, but also wanting to be the mom I wanted to be, I felt a really real pull in two different directions. And it really started to wear on me and it really started to burn me out. And I think a lot of moms who are working or who are just juggling, like, I want to have this part of my life that is just for me. We feel guilty or burned out about also being the moms we want to be. And so through a lot of trial and improvement, a lot of falling on my face, I sort of figured out some hacks, some processes, and, like systems that helped me to harmonize having goals and dreams as a woman and being there for my children. And I realized that those things were translatable to other moms. Like they were working for other moms. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I can help people. So I created Your Ideal Mom Life, which is my company. And from there, created a podcast called Love Your Mom Life and then wrote a book full of hacks to help you love your mom life and yourself a little bit more. It's called But Definitely Wear Mascara. And so that's how I got to where I am.
I love it. And I love the name of that book. I am on the mascara train. If there's one thing I put on, it is mascara.
Right. Like prioritize yourself in a tiny way.
In a tiny way. I love that. And I can totally relate. My husband and I have started businesses. I have this business now. And I always feel like the business in and of itself is almost a baby, right? Like you have to nurture it almost as much. And it can feel really selfish sometimes. And it can create a lot of conflict when we're, trying to do all of it at once. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, Nikki's going to walk us through some signs and symptoms of burnout that we can look for in our own lives.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. Well, you're, Amy, more of a we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood wherever you listen to podcasts.
So can you walk us through or talk us through what burnout means to you and what are some signs and symptoms that we can look out for?
So burnout was actually coined as a term that applies to people in the workplace. But to the extent that motherhood is a workplace and that being a mom is a job, it is where you can no longer find yourself being efficient or function or find any joy in what you're doing. And you may also start to notice that you're irritable, you're angry, and that you have some resentment. Also, that maybe you just can't get things done. Like you get stuck kind of in your head thinking about what I wish I could be doing or how I wish things could be. And you find yourself less efficient, which is going to contribute even more to that feeling of burnout.
Oh, that cycle of pushing and pushing and pushing. And then it just backfires because it becomes the thing, right? You get in that cycle and it just then becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, I can, I'm going to raise my hand and be like, I've been there. Yeah. So why is burnout so common with moms? Especially if it's a workplace term, why are we experiencing it so much?
We experience it so much because as women, we want to help. We want to support. We want to protect. We kind of want to do all the things. And as part of being supportive, we find ourselves saying yes a lot when we really want to say no. We find ourselves perhaps wishing we could do more to show our love, to show our support and our collaboration. That's just the way we are. And then eventually we get to a point where we're like, well, wait, what about me? What about me? And we forget to take care of ourselves because, again, it doesn't feel collaborative or supportive. It feels selfish. And that over and over again compounds over time, and we start to feel really burned out. And it's not a fun place to be, and it's not something people love to talk about, but we all go through it. And that's why I'm so loud about mom burnout, because I don't want anyone to feel alone. Like, it is normal. It is okay if you feel this way, and there are ways to help yourself out of it, and you don't have to stay there.
Oh, I love that. I love that you are sharing this message and that you're not alone and that it's okay to not be perfect. Nobody is perfect. And yeah, that it's better if we can just have these conversations and say, look, like I'm dealing with this, or this is really hard. I need some help, instead of bottling it up and trying to do everything and trying to be this superwoman that doesn't exist. So I love that you are talking about this and just helping mamas be like, yeah, you know what? It is a hard season right now in life, and I'm going to have to put this thing off or do something else different, or I'm going to have to take some time for myself, or having these conversations with the people around you who love and support you. And I absolutely love how supportive your husband has been of you on your journey. That's amazing. So that's awesome.
Yes, and he is amazing. And I have been intentional and very deliberate about sharing my feelings with him. And I think that's a place where we can get stuck as well. Like in our heads, again, thinking, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't need this help. I shouldn't have to talk about this. But if you're going through it, you do need to do those things. And I think a lot of times we're afraid to ask for help, even if it's from our partners. And especially if we're not working outside the home, because we kind of feel like, well, like, what do I have to complain about? I'm home all day. But nobody who hasn't done it understands how hard that is and how all-consuming it is. And our partners love us and they want to be there for us. We just have to tell them how. We have to be honest and open about that.
Okay, I was going to ask you some questions about that. But let's get into the 5 hacks to help moms with burnout, because I have a feeling we're going to touch on a lot of this stuff when we get into that. And I can always circle back and ask my follow-up questions. So what are those 5 hacks?
So the first thing is wake up before your kids just to get a little bit of guaranteed alone time. And when I say this, there's always one mom who's like, I'm turning this off. I cannot wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And before you do, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just wake up before your kids. Hopefully your kids wake up around 6:30 because they have to get to school. So if your kids wake up at 6, maybe you wake up at 5:45. It's not like a huge thing, right? Or maybe wake up at 5:55. Just wake up a little bit earlier than your kids so you have a minute to like take your first deep breath, to get yourself oriented with the day. Maybe you have your first cup of coffee alone by yourself, and eventually you will build up to an earlier wake up time that works for you and allows you to have just a minute. Maybe it's like to read a novel. Like, when was the last time you sat down and read for fun? Or maybe it's to do, I don't know, 50 push-ups or whatever it is. Like get some kind of activity in so that you feel like you did something that was just for you. And I cannot emphasize how important that is. And I know that there are 1,000 million of us out there talking about taking time for yourself as a mom. And that's because you need to. Like, there's no way you can pour from an empty cup. I have all the metaphors. Put your mask on first. And it's all true. And you will notice it. I'm going to challenge you, if you're not doing this now, to start doing it and see if you notice a difference, because I guarantee you will. You'll be a little bit more patient. You'll be calmer. You will have just a better head on your shoulders to approach the rest of the day with.
Oh, I 100% I'm on board with this one. This one made a huge difference in my life. And I didn't actually even do it from a perspective of I need some time to myself. I was like, well, I've got to squeeze in a workout. And if I don't do it in the morning, it's just not going to happen. There's so many excuses that come up in the afternoon. But this is what I found. I found that I was calmer and just more on top of it and able to then, I wake my daughter up and I'm not in a bad mood, right? Like I then at that point, I'm like, oh, hey, honey, wake up. And what has happened is then her day starts off on a better foot, right? I'm not like, oh my God, we're late, get up. It's time to get up, and I can I'll come back in 5 minutes, get a little snooze. And I just think like, what a nicer way I would like to wake up that way. It would be so nice if someone just come like, tickle me on my shoulder. And so while I can provide that for her, I definitely try to do it. And it is only because I wake up a little bit earlier. And I did not start, just like you said, I didn't start at 4:30 in the morning. I'm still not at 4:30 in the morning. And so it was incremental though, but it is, the number one. Mwah. All right, one more quick pause. Okay, let's get into the other four, because if they're as good as that first one, people are in for a treat.
And I will say, like, taking the time to work out, it is doing something for yourself. And what you said about how it impacts your daughter is huge, because this is where I want you guys to all kind of zone in. You are the center of your household. You are the center. So when you feel more joy, more patience, more fulfillment, that's going to spill over into everything else you do, especially the way you parent and the way you show up in your most important relationships and anything else that you want to do personally or professionally. So that's why this one is so big. So the second one is to do a regular mental dump. So you and I both know you have 1,000 bajillion things running around in your brain, not all of which seem that important. Like some of the things are really small things, like, oh, hey, I need to return that text message that I responded to while I was washing my hair but didn't actually respond to in real life. Or I need to sign that permission slip for the field trip. Or sometimes it's big stuff, right? Like bigger things that need to be worked on or happen in your business or in work, whatever it is. But they're all floating around in your brain. And if you don't dump them out and then you forget to do one of them, that's when you feel like you're failing. Like when you, the little things, it's like, oh, shoot, I didn't send money for book fair, or I forgot to reschedule this visit or this appointment, whatever it is. When those things start happening over and over again, you feel like a hot mess. And you start to speak negatively to yourself and again, go into the spiral. You feel burned out. You feel like there's never enough time in the day. But if you just take 30 minutes on a Sunday, let's say, and just start dumping out everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Like anything that's on your mind. If it's weighing on you, put it on the paper. And this serves two purposes. One, it's so cathartic. Like just to get it out of your brain and onto paper feels good. And then two, it's recorded now. So you have it written down somewhere, and that way you can kind of refer back to it. But even if you do nothing with the list and you just get it out onto paper, you're going to feel better. And again, that's going to spill over into everything you do.
Yep. Another piece of gold right there. Yes, because I have found that, and I have lost things or missed appointments or missed a podcast interview or, didn't do something or missed a return deadline on something. Oh, I hate that. I hate wasting money when I get that, miss the return window. And so anyway, yeah, definitely having that moment of and I love how you also said it doesn't matter if you actually even do anything with the list. That is gold because, yeah, you will just have that feeling of like, okay, I got it. I know what needs to be done now. And it feels a little more prioritized. It feels a little more tangible where you're not like, what is it? What is it? What is it? That moment, that mental like clutter of just like, I know there's something I've got to do, but I can't remember what it is. So yeah, definitely I've started writing everything down, especially as I get a little bit older. All right, what's number 3?
Number 3 is to make a to-don't list, which is my play on the opposite of a to-do list. Like, I just sit down one day and fantasize about all the stuff you want to stop doing. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Now, I'm saying fantasize. Like, really go deep here and think about all the things you hate doing that you don't want to do. Now, not all of them are going to be able to come off your list. There are, of course, some things that only you can do, and maybe you don't like doing them, but you kind of have to do them because it's part of your job or whatever the case may be, which is a whole other conversation. But there are going to be a lot of things on that list that you don't have to do, that you could perhaps outsource or ask for help with, that you're taking on because you feel like you need to be Superwoman or you need to show up for everybody and be everything to everyone, but you don't. And there are things that you can absolutely get help with. And when you can kind of put pen to paper and figure those things out and then actually outsource them or cross them off your list, delegate them, it's going to make a huge difference. It's a game changer. And some of the things for me were like, I'm going to find like a robot vacuum because I don't want to vacuum. And then I can like press a button and it vacuums for me. I don't want to do that. I don't like doing it. And so I'm now able to outsource that to a machine in my house or a crock pot for dinner, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's like, can I talk to somebody about helping me with pickup or drop off on certain days? Things like that. Like everybody needs a little bit of help. And the people you ask are most likely going to want to help you. Like we like helping other people. We just need to be asked.
Yes. This is where I struggle. I definitely struggle with just the minutia of every day and then the what don't I want to do? And of course my mind goes to the big things like, oh, I really hate cooking every day. Oh, I really hate, like the fantasies of if we won the lottery, the first thing I would do is hire a personal chef and housekeeper. So, but some of those aren't that intangible, right? I could hire somebody to come to our home once a month, once every other week, maybe. So yes, having that moment of really researching it, like taking it from that fantasy maybe of like, I would just love if I could hire a personal trainer or hire a chef or somebody to come clean my house and figuring out what would that actually cost and see if it actually would fit in your budget. I love that idea of just, stop fantasizing about it and see if you can make it a reality. And even in a teeny tiny small little way, that is really brilliant. Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is to plan your mornings the night before. And I'm saying like plan them to the last detail. So I plan out what I'm going to have for breakfast. And if I'm leaving the house, what I'm going to wear. And I mean, I get coffee in the machine with a cup under the spout, water in the reservoir. So I'm pressing one button and that's making itself happen. If I'm going to make a smoothie, I get like all the ingredients measured out. If they're dry, they're all in one container. The frozen fruit is all in a Ziploc bag in my freezer. And the blender cup already has the almond milk in it. And that's in my refrigerator. And then in the morning, it's just like dump it all together, press a button. Everything is planned out because that is the most hectic time of your day. Again, which is why waking up earlier so you can come into that chaos really helps. And then if you've gone the extra step of planning everything out and you just have to execute here and there, you're saving yourself probably 3 to 10 minutes. But on a really hectic morning, that is huge because you don't want to walk out the door feeling like you're already defeated, feeling like you've already lost the battle with the day and it hasn't even started. Same thing with your kids. Like if you can get your kids to pick out their outfits the night before or just lay their shoes out, make sure backpacks are packed, homework folders are in the backpack, those kind of things, that's really going to help you. And then again, if you're leaving the house for the day, I plan my outfit out. And sometimes if I don't feel like really thinking about it, I fall back on what I call a uniform, which I created like one day just to like play dress up on a weekend and wanted to find 4 outfits that I know look great on me that I don't have to think about. And then I don't have to, if I put it on, I'm wearing it. It's not like I have to like try it on with something else. Like it's already crystallized because I've already done all of that prep work. And then I make sure that is ready to go the next day. So I'm not standing there for 15, 20 minutes like, this doesn't look good. Nothing fits me. Because again, that's another mental spiral you don't want to go into, especially right before you start your day.
Yeah. Pre-planning as much as possible, and the homework folder, spoken like a true mother.
Where's your book? Where's your homework folder? Every day.
Every day. Every day. Why every day? Why every day?
Yeah. One day it'll sink in.
When they live on their own and they forget it for themselves for the very first time. Huh. Okay. And number 5.
Number 5 is to speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. So when we're talking about burnout, there's a lot of opportunity to tell yourself how bad of a job you're doing at everything. Like you're always late. You're never able to get dinner ready for, or figure out what to cook. You always forget to put this, that, or the other thing in your kid's bag, whatever it is. Like we don't talk very nicely to ourselves when we're burned out. So let's start practicing a new way. And I understand that your first thought is knee jerk and it's often reactionary and you can't always control it. But take responsibility for your second thought. Your second thought can be something nicer. It can be like if your first thought was like, you know what, I really stink as a mom. Your second thought can be like, you know what, that's not true. Like my kids know they are loved, they are seen, they're heard. I am doing the very best I can. And remember that you are doing the best you can. You didn't wake up this morning and look in the mirror and plan all the ways you could be mediocre today, right? Like you're trying hard. Being a mom is hard. So give yourself that grace. And my rule of thumb is if I wouldn't say it to my children, I don't say it to myself. Like, would you ever tell your kids that they suck? Or would you ever tell them they don't matter, they're not good enough? No, you would never do that. So stop doing it to yourself. And again, I know the first thought, it's not always so easy, but the second thought is where you have an opportunity to catch yourself.
Thanks for that reminder that it's okay if the first thought isn't nice, because I do think you can feel guilty about that first thought, right? And then you just add another layer of that first thought for whatever it is. So yeah, thanks for saying that we are going to have some instant reactions, and sometimes that's just part of a habit, I think, right? It's just more of a habit that we get into of just like being mean to ourselves and holding ourselves to maybe an impossible standard that I'm not sure who set this standard for us, because I can guarantee you none of our mothers were perfect, right?
Right. Definitely not.
So, and we love them. So I also like to put it in that kind of a framework of like, well, I know my mom was doing the best she could. And as I get older, that gets so much easier to understand and to see and to like look back and be like, oh, yeah, I probably wasn't the nicest back then, as a kid, right? As the child to my mom, or, just having those moments of like reality check. And just knowing that she did a great job. Both of my parents did a great job. And yeah, and then just having that just layer of reality for yourself too, of like, it's okay. Like, we're not going to be perfect, and just giving yourself that grace. So thank you for that reminder. That's awesome. Do you have any advice on how moms can get off that comparison hamster wheel though? Because I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, especially with social media today. I was just talking about like why we hold ourselves to this high standard. I think we're seeing these false high standards out there a lot. So how do we get off that comparison?
We have to remind ourselves about what's true and what's not true. There are things that are true on social media that you see. People are genuinely happy sometimes and celebrating big wins and accomplishments. A lot of times they're also covering up pain and failure or loss. Mistakes, which in my opinion are just really good ways to learn. But you have to remind yourself that you're not living their life and they're not living your life. And when you compare, I guarantee you're never comparing your best attributes to their best attributes. You're comparing your worst to their best, and you're always going to come out as the loser in that comparison, and you're not going to feel good about yourself. And I don't know, maybe sometimes you compare and you feel better, right? I mean, I guess that could be a thing too. But again, it all goes back to just treating yourself the way you would treat someone you love. Like if your kid was doing that, if your kid was saying that, Pam down the street, she has better hair than me, or she has better whatever, you would talk them up. You would explain to them how great they are and whatever their unique gifts or talents are, because we all have them. We all have them, and that is just a fact. We might not all know what they are or might not have leaned into them yet, but we all have them. So just, again, you have to be kind to yourself, and you have to remind yourself about what's true, what's not true, what's actually happening, and what do I have? What do I have to be grateful about in this moment or in this season of life? What am I good at? Because I guarantee you there are things.
So good. Okay, so how do we start to, this one just came to me as you were saying that. If we don't know what our unique gifts and strengths and talents are, where should we start to kind of figure that out?
You need to sit down with yourself. And I'm really big into journaling and spending time with myself, really listening to myself, and just start with, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of your life? And people sometimes act like they know what it is, but when you ask them that question, they're like, I don't think I do know what that is. And for moms especially, it's because we never stop and give ourselves permission or time to think about it. And I mean, really dream about, like, if you had a magic wand, what would you want? What would you do? And oftentimes our gifts and talents are going to be tied up in that. The reason we want it, the reason we dream about it, is because it's something that we feel inherently we'd be good at, or for some way we feel we add value to this earth. And it takes, it's not an overnight thing. Like for me, it took a couple of years to really figure it out. And it actually tied back to something that I had been doing since I was a little girl, which is writing. I love writing. And I went a very long, circuitous route to get to where I am today with writing, but like went to law school and became a lawyer and then had businesses that had nothing to do with writing. And of course, now with Your Ideal Mom Life, I do write a blog, but it took me a long time to get there. But it was over and over again thinking about, what do I love? What do I really want? If I could wave a magic wand, there are no consequences. Everybody's getting to where they need to be. Everyone's on time. Money's not an object. What do I really want? And that introspection is really powerful and can help you like lean into what your gifts and talents are. And then in small ways, you can start like experimenting with those things. I'm not telling you to go quit your day job and like, do whatever the thing is, but you can certainly start doing some of that on the side, whatever it might be. And you'd be surprised how fulfilling that is, how much more purpose you'll feel, and how joyful you'll feel. You won't find yourself wishing you were somebody else.
So good. Have you seen the movie Wish?
Yes, the Disney movie? Yes.
Yeah. It reminded me right there what you said at the very end, right? It gives you joy to know what you're wishing for and what you're working for. And I think that's hopefully no spoiler alerts. But right, when you give up that, when you give up that part of yourself, when you stop dreaming and when you stop striving and figuring out what your unique innate qualities are, you lose that spark. And so
your little girl dreams is what I call them. Like,
oh, fun.
We all had them. So what were yours? And that some of you are going to roll your eyes and be like, oh, I wanted to be a ballerina. Okay, well, maybe there's some way you can lean into that. Like maybe you could take a class for adults, or maybe you could go watch people dance, or whatever it is. I mean, like there are small ways you can get doses of that into your life, and then it'll come to you over time. But you have to be intentional about it, and you really have to allow yourself to dream again.
So good. So good. Well, Nikki, this has been wonderful. Where can people find you? I know they're going to want to follow up and come learn more and read more and connect with you.
Well, let's be friends. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. My handle is Nikki Oden, which is my name. Really easy. You can also find me at youridealmomlife.com or by searching for Love Your Mom Life on any platform where podcasts are played.
Love it. And we, of course, will have the links to all of that in the show notes, so you can just click on through and connect with Nikki. And my favorite way to end every show, so before I go, I want to ask you 3 rapid fire questions. And the first one is, what does clutter-free mean to you?
Clutter-free means that my brain is organized, but also my space is organized. I want those two things to be aligned.
Love the alignment. Number 2, what's making you happy right now or in this season of your life?
I am writing a novel, and I am working on getting it published traditionally. And it has been a very difficult, very strenuous exercise, but I love how much I'm learning. And I am excited to wake up every day and work on it.
Oh my gosh, that's super cool. Okay, well, the third one probably is going to align right with that, which is, what is a goal you have for yourself this year?
My goal is for my debut novel to be published. I probably will not be published this year, even if I get picked up this year. but my biggest dream would be for it to come out and for maybe become a movie one day. Like if I'm sharing my biggest dreams. It's a rom-com. It's really cute and funny.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, put it out there. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. Well, someday I'll be like, I had her on my podcast and now she has a movie. That is so cool, Nikki. Well, I love it. Dream big. And, you're doing what you tell other people to do. So I love when people actually walk the walk when they come on this show. So thank you so much for all you're doing. And we'll definitely connect. And I want to be friends with you. So we will continue to do that. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Nikki. Have a great day. Oh my goodness, that one was so good. I really just love Nikki's perspective on life, just how real she is, and just how we were able to talk about those ways we can get over burnout, that it's not something that we have to live with, but it's also not something that we should feel guilty about, because the reason we're burnt out is just that we want so much to be able to do so much, right? We want to be able to be there for everyone. And we just need to make sure that we are prioritizing our own self-care and our own mental well-being so that we can be who we want to be and we can show up as the person and the partner and the parent that we really know deep down we can be. And I believe in you. I know you can show up as that person. So thank you to Nikki for joining us today and giving us some amazing things to think about and just things to implement in our life that we can start becoming those three things and just start alleviating some of that guilt and overwhelm and burnout feelings that we might be experiencing. And I would love to know your thoughts on this episode. So what stuck out for you the most? Which of those 5 steps are you going to implement first? If you're brave enough, come on over and share with me either on Instagram. You can send me a DM or you can comment on this post. I'm at Wannabe Clutter Free, or you can join our private community, the Wannabe Minimalist family group on Facebook. You can come and share. We're going to have a conversation over there. It is a very supportive community, so feel free to jump right in. You can also leave a review for this show on Apple Podcast, a comment on Spotify, or a comment on YouTube. And remember, if you know someone who might be suffering from burnout or might just need a little more encouragement on their mom journey, go ahead and share this episode with them. It might be the thing that changes their whole day. And so I would love if you would do that just to help encourage other mamas on the journey as well. And remember, you can get more detailed show notes by going over to wannabeclutterfree.com/210. Again, that's wannabeclutterfree.com/210 to find out more about Nikki and the amazing resources she has available for you as well. And as always, thank you so much for joining me today. With that, I hope you have an amazing day. I will see you back here next week for another expert guest show. I will be talking with Colette Roy about how clutter affects our relationships. It is one you definitely don't want to miss. Until next time, take care, keep things simple, give yourself some grace, and remember, I believe in you. I know you can do amazing things. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.